A robot looks directly at you. It blinks. It smiles. It tilts its head as if thinking. No machine, no mannequin. It looks like a real person. And that is exactly what thousands of people around the world saw when a video leaked on social media, leaving experts, philosophers, and engineers on opposite sides of a debate that nobody expected to be having right now. The Chinese company AheadForm has just presented something that crosses a line that many believed was still years away. What you are going to discover in this video will completely change the way you think about the future of robots and about the future of what it means to be human. Do you want to understand everything? Then watch the video until the end and I will explain it all to you. But first, leave your like and subscribe to the channel. That way, you will stay up to date with the latest news in robotics. When a silent video began circulating on X, the former Twitter, just a few seconds of footage, a female figure with a human appearance. She blinks. She scans the room with her gaze. She reacts to the environment around her. She tilts her head slightly, and then she smiles. What nobody expected was the speed at which that clip would spread. Shared by Yuhang Hu, a robotics researcher and founder of Shuxing Technology, the video showed the latest product from the Chinese company AheadForm, the Origin F1, a semi-torso humanoid robot with facial expressions so realistic that they disoriented any observer, expert or layperson alike. What happened next surprised even its own creators. Within a few days, the post generated a global debate. Are we facing a milestone in robotics or a demonstration of technology that is still far from being useful? Engineers, philosophers, psychologists, and technology enthusiasts were divided. And at the center of everything was an apparently simple question. Does the face of a robot matter as much as its hands? AheadForm is not an unknown company to those who follow Chinese robotics. Founded in 2024 by Hu Yuhang, a researcher trained at Columbia University, the company has a stated mission that sounds almost poetic: to dissolve the boundaries between screen and flesh, illusion and reality. From the very beginning, the focus was not on building robots that could carry boxes in factories. The goal was to create machines that could be mistaken for people. In October 2025, the company had already drawn attention by presenting the LV1, a robotic head with 30 artificial facial muscles driven by brushless micromotors, synthetic silicone skin, and integration with large-scale language and vision models. It was impressive, but the Origin F1 went even further. Now there is a semi-torso body, movements synchronized with speech, and the so-called Omni AI architecture, a multimodal system that allows the robot to see, hear, and respond in real time during conversations. The context in which this news emerges is crucial for understanding its relevance. China has been the standout player in the global race for humanoid robots. According to a survey by China Briefing, the country recorded more than 610 robotics investment deals in just the first 9 months of 2025, mobilizing around 50 billion yuan, or approximately $7 billion. The growth rate was 250% higher than the previous year, but the majority of these investments were concentrated in industrial robots, machines that transport parts in assembly lines, organize stock in warehouses, and execute repetitive physical tasks. What AheadForm is doing is different. The company is betting on the idea that the next big market in robotics is not the factory. It is the reception hall, the hospital, the school, the living room. And this bet is stirring up the sector. Because if robots can already do the work of humans, the question now being raised is another one entirely. Can they appear human enough for people to want to interact with them? What we will see next about the technical workings of the Origin F1 will surprise and perhaps disturb. To understand what AheadForm did with the Origin F1, one must first abandon any image of an industrial robot that one might have in mind. We are not talking about mechanical arms, exposed steel, or abrupt movements. What the company built is, essentially, a living sculpture. The foundation of everything is the synthetic silicone skin, a soft, translucent, and textured material designed to mimic the appearance of human skin. Beneath it, there is a mesh of brushless micromotors developed internally by the company with a focus on 3 essential characteristics: silence, precision, and compactness. These motors are smaller than most people would imagine. They fit inside the structure of the robot's head without creating any visible volume. Each motor controls a specific point on the face: the corner of the mouth, the eyebrows, the eyelids, the cheeks. The company's previous model, the LV1, operated with up to 30 degrees of freedom, that is, 30 independent points of movement in the face. The Origin F1 advances this system with lip movement synchronization learned through a self-learning pipeline based on a variational autoencoder combined with a facial action transformer. In plain language, the robot learned on its own how to move its lips more naturally when speaking, without needing to be programmed movement by movement. The eyes deserve special attention. Each eyeball of the Origin F1 contains high-resolution RGB cameras that function as the robot's real eyes. They allow it to see the environment, recognize faces, monitor facial expressions, and adapt its response in real time. When the robot looks at you, it is literally processing your image and deciding how to respond. The integration with depth sensors and microphones completes the sensory system. The robot hears what you say, sees how you react, and responds in a multimodal way. The brain of all this is the so-called Omni AI architecture, developed to coordinate perception, language, and expression simultaneously. In practice, this means that the Origin F1 does not execute actions in sequence. It processes voice, image, and context input at the same time, generating synchronized spoken responses and facial expressions in real time. The latency, that is, the time between a stimulus and the robot's response, is described by the company as low enough for the interaction to feel natural. What has changed compared to what existed before? A great deal. Earlier models of expressive robots, such as AheadForm's own ELF I1, were essentially static heads, impressive but limited to frontal interaction and without a body. The Origin F1 adds a semi-mobile torso, expands the artificial intelligence system, and integrates the ability to conduct a complete conversation, not just reacting to stimuli, but participating in a dialogue with context and continuity. The most direct comparison in the Western market is with Ameca, from the British company Engineered Arts, long considered the robot with the most advanced facial expressions available commercially. Ameca operates with 61 degrees of freedom across the entire body and 27 in the face. Impressive numbers, but Engineered Arts made a deliberate choice to keep Ameca with a clearly robotic appearance, avoiding realistic skin and human color tones, precisely to avoid crossing into the more disturbing side of the so-called uncanny valley. A concept we will discuss in detail further ahead. The Origin F1 goes in the opposite direction. Synthetic skin, human features, recognizable feminine appearance. It is a conscious bet on hyperrealism. From a technical standpoint, what this moment represents is a convergence of three forces that matured simultaneously: the miniaturization of actuators, the motors that move mechanical parts, the evolution of language and vision models that allow contextual responses in real time, and advances in synthetic materials that imitate human skin. Separately, each of these elements already existed. What AheadForm did was unite them into a single coherent system and place that system in a video that the entire world saw in March 2026. The emergence of robots like the Origin F1 opens a real window of opportunity for sectors that depend on human interaction: healthcare, education, public service, tourism, and entertainment. A robot that can smile, maintain eye contact, and adapt its expression to the emotional tone of a conversation can perform roles that today require constant human presence, such as receptionists in hospitals, tutors in classrooms with few teachers, or companions for elderly people in long-term care facilities. The global market for humanoid robots is projected to reach between $38 and $154 billion by 2035, according to different projections from Goldman Sachs. And the portion oriented towards social interaction is exactly the one that robots like the Origin F1 intend to occupy. On the other hand, this same ability to imitate human appearance and expressions carries risks that go far beyond visual discomfort. Hyper-realistic robots can be used to deceive vulnerable people, elderly people with dementia, children, or anyone in a situation of emotional fragility, without those people understanding that they are not interacting with a human being. The absence of specific regulation on social androids creates a worrying legal vacuum. Who is responsible when a robot convinces someone of something false? Who defines the ethical limits of a machine designed to look and behave like a real person? The discussion surrounding the Origin F1 is not just about technology. It has reignited a philosophical debate that robotics experts have been carrying for decades, and which has now acquired practical urgency. The central concept is the so-called uncanny valley. First described in 1970 by Japanese scientist Masahiro Mori, the principle states the following: the more a robot resembles a human being, the more people tend to like it, up to a certain point. When the resemblance becomes very high, but still imperfect, the reaction reverses. Instead of empathy, the observer feels discomfort, strangeness, even repulsion. It is the exact point where the almost human appearance seems wrong in a way that is difficult to define. A study published in 2025 investigated precisely this. Can robots equipped with advanced language models reduce this effect? The study, conducted with 58 participants who interacted with a hyper-realistic AI-driven robot, found encouraging results. The perception of strangeness decreased significantly after the interaction, but there was a catch. A subgroup of users continued to feel discomfort even after a pleasant conversation. And the variable that most influenced the willingness to continue interacting with the robot was not how much it resembled a human. It was the quality of the conversation. In other words, the face matters less than what comes out of the mouth. This finding is relevant for evaluating what AheadForm is doing. Making a robot's face look human is an undeniable technological achievement. But if the conversation experience is artificial, mechanical, or predictable, the hyper-realism of the face can paradoxically worsen the interaction because it raises the user's expectations and amplifies any slip in language or reasoning. According to analyses published in Robotics and Automation News, this is exactly the risk that Engineered Arts, manufacturer of Ameca, decided to avoid by keeping its robot with a deliberately robotic appearance. The company preferred to be honest about what Ameca is, rather than betting on the perfect illusion. From an ethical and regulatory standpoint, the debate is still in its early stages. There is currently no specific international legal framework for hyper-realistic social robots. the European Union is advancing with the AI Act, which classifies artificial intelligence systems by risk level, but the rules for interactive androids are still vague. Experts raise legitimate concerns. A robot that looks human can be used for purposes of emotional manipulation, to collect behavioral data without explicit consent, or to replace mental health professionals without the necessary supervision. None of these questions have been answered, and the market is moving faster than the regulations. In the competitive landscape, AheadForm's Origin F1 finds rivals both in the West and within China itself. Ameca, from the British company Engineered Arts, remains the global reference in robotic expressiveness for commercial contexts, with up to 61 degrees of freedom in the body and integration with the leading language models on the market, including GPT-4 and others. Its price ranges between $100,000 and $500,000 depending on the configuration, well above the price point that AheadForm intends to reach. Sophia, from Hanson Robotics, was the pioneer in global visibility, but never fully overcame the perception that its interaction was more scripted than spontaneous. In the Chinese market itself, AheadForm faces direct competitors that also bet on facial expressiveness as a differentiator. AnyWit Robotics, born as a spin-off from the University of Science and Technology of China, presented Any, a robot capable of reproducing 34 degrees of facial freedom, a number that surpasses both Ameca from the British Engineered Arts and earlier versions of AheadForm itself. UBTECH, one of the largest companies in the sector in the country, entered this competition with Una, a female-looking android designed for high expressiveness and backed by strong institutional support. What differentiates AheadForm in this competitive landscape is not just the number of facial movements, but the bet on combining visual realism with natural AI-driven conversation, a combination that its direct competitors have not yet consolidated in the same way, especially UBTECH, which divides its chips between industrial applications and social presence, without concentrating efforts on either front with the same intensity. What the Origin F1 does differently compared to all these competitors is the combination of synthetic skin with self-supervised learning of expressions, especially lip movement. Most expressive robots still depend on manual programming or motion capture from real humans to animate the lips when speaking. AheadForm developed a system that learns autonomously, watching videos and calibrating itself, which opens up the possibility of continuous adaptation without the intervention of engineers. That is a real advantage. The disadvantage is equally real: the maintenance cost of hyper-realistic synthetic skin. The need for frequent calibration of the micromotors and the absence of full mobility still limit the Origin F1 to controlled environments, far from a large-scale deployment. What the Origin F1 from AheadForm represents, above all else, is a clear signal that robotics has entered a new phase. For years, the debate revolved around the strength, speed, and precision of machines, what they can do with their hands, arms, and legs. What we are seeing now is a shift in perspective. The battle moves to the face, the voice, the ability to appear and to behave like someone worth having a conversation with. This is not trivial. It means that the next generation of robots will not only replace physical functions, but will compete for the emotional attention of people, something no machine had disputed so directly until now. The question that remains, and that nobody yet knows how to answer, is a provocative one. If a robot looks human, smiles like a human, blinks like a human, and converses like a human, at exactly what point would you stop treating it like a machine? Leave your answer in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, leave your like and subscribe to the channel. That way, you will always receive notifications of new videos. Until next time.